All right, we're live.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the November 18th, 2020 meeting of the East Lansing Planning Commission. I will ask Mr. Haywood to call roll and remind each of us that we are instructed to indicate that we are indeed meeting remotely in the approximate location of your current office. Mr. Haywood, would you please call roll?
All right, thank you. Bowman.
Present, attending virtually from East Lansing.
And East Lansing, Michigan, correct?
Michigan, yes.
All right, Boyle. You are muted still.
Present, and I'm also attending from East Lansing, Michigan.
Cahill.
Present, attending from East Lansing.
Kusler. Lapine.
Present and attending from East Lansing, Michigan.
Sullivan.
Present and attending from East Lansing, Michigan.
Wagner.
Present and attending electronically from East Lansing, Michigan.
Williams.
Present, attending electronically from East Lansing, Michigan.
And Wolf.
Here, attending electronically from East Lansing, Michigan.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. That'll bring us on to item 1.2, approval of the agenda. I do have one minor change, and I would like to entertain a motion to approve the change of the agenda to include our review of our 2021 meetings. There's a possibility that we will not have business in in December. And I believe that we're obligated to provide a list of our 2021 meetings. When that comes up in the agenda, if indeed the agenda is approved to accommodate this, Mr. Haywood will provide that information on screen so that you can see the dates of the meeting. That actually came out late in a memo this afternoon that it was added to the online agenda. So if you just picked it up within the last 4 hours or so, you probably have it. If not, it will be made available to us. So again, I'd like to entertain a motion to modify the agenda to include the 2021 meetings under new business.
So moved by Cahill.
Williams, support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Cahill and seconded by Commissioner Williams. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed? That motion carries. Hold on for just a second. I'm reminded now that after roll call, I was supposed to read the our script, and I will do that now. Again, thanking everybody for their patience in dealing with this still new technology. All members of the public will have a chance to address the commission during public comment and during each public hearing. Each commission member will be called upon individually to speak during each item. A commission member may say pass if they do not have a comment on that item. Commission members are reminded to state their name before speaking. Thank you, Commissioner Cahill and Commissioner Williams, or making a motion or any such business. And all votes of note or of consequence will be taken by a roll call vote. That will move us on to item 1.3. Excuse me, I guess if we just approve the change to the agenda, now I guess we'll approve the agenda as changed. I would entertain a motion to do so.
So moved by Cahill.
Williams, support.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Cahill and seconded by Commissioner Williams to approve the modified agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? Thank you. And that motion carries as well. Item 1.3, approval of the minutes. In your package, you had a copy of the minutes of the draft minutes of the October 28th, 2020 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Boyle, approve the minutes for the October 28th, 2020 meeting as submitted.
Wolf, second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Boyle and seconded by Commissioner Wolf to approve the minutes of the October 28th meeting as submitted. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries as well. Moving us on to item 2, committee reports. I will take the lead for the Shaping of the Avenue Committee. We met on November 4th and moved through I believe the final portions of the final draft of that document. We currently have a work session of the entire commission scheduled for November 30th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. That will be a remote meeting. We were told by staff members that when the Planning Commission receives that information, that same information will be forwarded to the city attorney's office, Public Works Director, and the Director of Parks and Rec in order to get them to do some preliminary review. We will expect that they're going to have some input that they'll want to provide as much as the Planning Commission does, and that at the same time, a press release will be issued so as to notify architects and landlords and developers and those individuals likely to be immediately impacted by or would want to have some input because they were likely to be impacted by the adopted ordinance. So the public rollout is going to be beginning very shortly. I'll invite my 2 fellow committee members to add anything if they'd like. I'm seeing 2 nods or two heads shaking. So if there are any questions for the committee, we'll be happy to take those now. And if not, we will plan to discuss that in some depth on the 30th of November. Moving us on to item 3. Oh, Commissioner Cahill.
Yeah, my question wasn't quite on that, but as you know, last week I sent an email. I probably should have brought this up right at the start of the meeting, but I sent an email because I checked on the website and it had us meeting last Wednesday. And I said, I presumed we weren't. And then I checked on the website again this week and it had us meeting next week. My concern is about open meetings violations. If we're not updating our schedule on the city website.
Yeah, agreed. I actually saw that today that there was a suggestion that there was going to be a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday. I mean, it's presumably simple enough to remove that. I will have to turn to staff just to make sure that this meeting was appropriately noticed. Presume it was. It's just that the other 2 hadn't been removed.
Yeah, that's correct. This meeting certainly was posted last Friday. So this meeting was correct, but we'll have to look into the other dates to see what's going on with that. I was not aware of that.
Thanks, Commissioner Cahill.
You're welcome.
For the purposes of minutes, perhaps that could go under commissioner announcements. But for now, we're in item 3, staff reports. Mr. Haywood, do you have anything to report?
No, except under this item on the agenda is the annual meeting dates. I needed a place to put those until the agenda was amended. So that will just correspond to our item later.
Okay.
So no other report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner announcements, item 4? All right, then we have, to my knowledge, no written communications from citizens. I'm going to check and see if there's nobody in the waiting room, but I'll still take this moment to say that this would typically be the time we'd move on to public comment, and that each caller in the queue will have 5 minutes to address the commission. At the end of 5 minutes, they would be placed on mute. I'll just continue to read in case anybody shows up in the next minute or so. Callers will be identified by the last 3 digits of their phone number. When called on, you will be unmuted. If you do not wish to speak, please indicate so by saying pass. If you do wish to speak, please clearly state your name and address before addressing the commission. I'll confirm, Mr. Parcell, do we have anybody in the waiting room or anybody waiting to get?
You do not.
Or waiting to get into the waiting room?
Not that I am aware of.
Thank you. And that will move us past communications from citizens. We have no public hearings this evening, and move us on to the first item of business, item of old business. This is item 7.1, Consideration of ordinance 1492, an ordinance to make necessary updates and corrections to the chapter 50 zoning of the city code. Mr. Haywood.
Thank you. So at our last meeting, we had quite a bit of good input from commissioners on a number of the items. The two main issues that had significant changes to the language are regarding the alcohol sales and the B3 height. With regard to the alcohol sales, there was a question about the requirement to include square footage with regard to storage or items related to alcohol storage and that kind of thing. I did talk to the city attorney about this part of that section. He was unsure what the original intent was, obviously, and questioned the why it would be in there. And in fact, even went so far as to say that it would be incredibly difficult to enforce, as other commissioners have brought that up at the last meeting as well. So he kind of confirmed that that would be a difficult part of that language to enforce. And so I think the recommendation from staff is to remove that from that section. So otherwise, with regard to the B3 height issue, we just confirmed and changed the language pursuant to the discussion from the last meeting. So with that, I would take any questions.
Questions for Mr. Haywood? I'm going to specifically reach out to Commissioner Wolf and make sure that, because there was a little bit of dialogue about the height issue.
Yes. I've been having a little computer problems here. I'm trying to.
Mine's slowed up too, actually. It's sort of stalling on me. There we go.
I have suggested change for the language in the B3 height district. Or the height in the B3 district. The staff report had suggested 3 possible options, not necessarily the only options, but ways of addressing that section. And I looked at those, and then I also went and looked at the East Village district, which has somewhat similar language. And I'm pretty sure that staff has been comfortable with the height language in the East Village district. And I think Mr. Haywood can confirm that at least this set of revisions did not call for any changes to the height language there. So I used that as a model for a way to simplify the 50-593F, which is what I am trying to find right now.
Are you trying to find it in our packet, Commissioner Wolf?
I'm trying to find it on my screen here.
Okay. That's the language that was proposed by staff is in page 33 of the agenda packet, if anybody's interested in scrolling there. 33 of 112, that is.
Yeah. I was trying to get this ready before the meeting, but one of my computers would no longer open PDFs. So
I can bring it up and share my screen.
well, if other people can see it, I can read what my suggested change is because I have that in front of me. I just can't get the that section of the code very quickly here. But 50-593F currently consists of two sentences. The first sentence is quite a long kind of run-on sentence that goes on for 8 lines in that paragraph. And then the second sentence is shorter. I would leave the second sentence as it is because it's not really related to what we're trying to fix. The first sentence I would replace with 3 shorter, clearer sentences that are partially derived from the East Village district. So it would say, the minimum building height shall be 4 stories. Buildings can be up to 8 stories or 112 feet in height. Those are both pretty much word for word from the East Village. And the final sentence of the 3 new ones would be, the City Council may, upon an affirmative vote of 3/4 of all members of City Council, permit an increase in stories or a maximum building height of up to 140 feet for a building deemed by the City Council to be of significant public benefit, subject to an approved special use permit as provided in Article 2, Division 3 of this chapter. And that language is pretty much already in there towards the end of that first sentence. So this makes, to me, there's 2 somewhat significant changes, but I don't think they matter to us, and I think they're improvements. One is that it eliminates the minimum height distinction between residential and non-residential buildings. The code as written gives a different, a taller minimum requirement, 6 stories for a residential building and 4 for a non-residential. And in the East Village, we don't do that. And I think it's preferable not to distinguish between them. And second, the new language eliminates the SUP requirement that's in the current height language that would apply up to 112 feet. And again, that change is mirroring the East Village district, which does not require a special use permit below or up to 112 feet.
So the screen I'm sharing right now is edited to our last conversation, so it hasn't been edited to that version that you just described. So just so you can compare where we were at the last conversation.
So you can see in here what the original language was, and also the other changes that we had discussed already.
Well, from a staff's perspective, I think Commissioner Wolf's recommendation does greatly simplify height requirements to that effect, and which is the whole point of trying to edit that section. So appreciate the help with that if others are supportive.
And I would add that I was not trying to make significant changes, not major changes, because I don't think this is the time that we should be fiddling with this too much with the form-based code coming before too long. So I was trying to keep more or less with the spirit of what's there already, and at the same time make it more similar to the East Village Code, which in part was written more recently than this was. I think that's part of the reason that this is so convoluted, that it started out one way and then got modified a couple of times. And so I was trying to simplify it to be more like the East Village Code.
Any questions or discussion?
Do I need to state it again, or was that clear enough?
Would you mind? I've got it printed in front of me here, but I don't know that everybody has that. And then actually, David, if Mr. Haywood, if you'd leave that up on the screen so that sort of the differences are clearer.
Sorry, I can show the email.
Oh,
That would help. Let me get to that.
absolutely. Yep, please.
Can you see it in that email? Or is it still the ordinance?
Oh, it's still the ordinance.
Okay, I gotta stop sharing.
That's right.
Bear with me here just 1 second. I want to do. You see it now?
Yes, thanks.
Can you highlight the part in the fourth paragraph or so, right where the F is?
That's good.
So it would now be those 3 sentences. The first one says the minimum building height shall be 4 stories. Buildings can be up to 8 stories or 112 feet in height. And then the third one I won't read in total, but it's copied from the end of what was already in the section that we're modifying. It's just restating the criteria for gaining height up to 140 feet. And again, the first 2 sentences are copied pretty much verbatim from the East Village.
Give everybody a moment to digest that. It looks like everybody's reading. All right, any questions or comments? Concerns? Commissioner Cahill.
I just wonder why we go into stories at all. Does it really matter? Isn't the height what we're really concerned about?
Commissioner Sullivan, are you offering an answer to that? I was waiting for Commissioner Wolf to clarify what he had talked about last meeting, but
Yeah, it was a point I brought up last meeting where if the goal is density, obviously the less stories that are in a building, the less density that you're going to have, especially if it's a residential building.
So particularly for the lower heights, it's probably wiser to, if density is the goal, and it is, it's probably wiser to do stories so that you get the maximum number of stories per height. Commissioner Wolf.
Yes, that's exactly the distinction, especially when you're talking about the minimum. That the concept is we don't want to waste the land downtown. We don't want people building new 1-story, 2-story buildings. So we specify it as a minimum number of stories because that tells you how much activity or use you're going to have in the building. And at that height, we really don't care what it is in feet.
And
I can see that on the bottom end, but why do we care if someone's putting a big tall building in? How many stories are going to be in the big tall building?
yep, go ahead, Commissioner Wolf. Yep.
Yeah, actually, we don't. If you look at the clause at the end of that lets it go up to 140 feet, it does not specify a limit in number of stories. It's based entirely on the height in feet. It says council can allow additional stories, but does not put any limit on it. And then for the intermediate height, where it says 8 stories or 112 feet, that one I copied directly from the East Village, thinking that it's probably better to just stay with that rather than introduce yet another variation on this topic when we are about to be discussing the form-based code as well. It seemed better to just stick with something that we have.
Okay.
Good questions. Any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Haywood, I didn't see a, if we're to that point yet, excuse me, maybe there weren't, I just didn't see or I can't find it yet. Anyway, motion language.
Yeah,
So again, I'm just not flagged it. Vice Chair.
yeah, it's on on the last page of the staff report.
Right, so I revised the staff report also I noticed that it was still the version from the last meeting, so it is a revised staff report. It basically provides the explanation from the city attorney and the proposed motion. Sorry, I meant to make a point of that before we started.
No worries, thanks.
So that's the update. And if you wanted to include Commissioner Wolf's change there, you would need to amend the Planning Commission's version of 1492 to include that.
Sure. Commissioner Wolf.
I'm not ready to make a motion yet, but I wanted to ask Mr. Haywood about the other two little errors that I had pointed out in the code. Did you look at those again? I have some thoughts about those and could introduce them as amendments after the motion is on the floor.
Which were those?
The ones I sent you email about last summer when there's a cross-reference to a section that was then later removed by Ordinance 1443.
Right.
I can tell you where they are if you want to look at them.
Yeah.
It's in the packet, right? The email's in the packet.
Yeah, the email's in the packet. It's in 1594. So hard to keep track of these letters and numbers. 1594 B 4A is one of them. That's the one that's a little bit trickier to figure out how to fix. The second one is pretty simple. It's in 5B, just a couple pages farther down.
So in 94B4A, what was the, let's see. Oh, it's just a reference to 593F.
Mhm.
That's the one, yeah. And that used to have a description of a specific area bounded by Grand River Avenue, Bailey, Albert, Grove Street, Linden. I don't remember the full boundaries of it, but, and that was removed.
Commissioner Wolf, did you say you had at least a simple solution for one of these? It sounds
Yes.
to me like maybe that, is this something that we want to try to tackle on the fly? Go ahead.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the second one is simple. If you look at it's same section, but 5B. So it's just about 2 pages farther along. And it's a reference to the same area.
Yeah, I think it, I have to take a minute to think about this.
Are you looking at the 5B one?
No, I'm looking at the 593F still.
Okay. The problem is that the language that this was referring to is no longer there, so you can't see it now.
Right, because I think that section it's the height section we were just talking about.
That's right.
And
Exactly.
it used to describe the area that was eligible for 140 feet. Now everything in B3 is eligible for 140 feet.
Exactly.
They just took the description out because it's no longer a subset of B3.
That's right. But that subset.
I don't know that that's described anywhere. That's
What was
the
that?
problem. I don't know that that's described anywhere else.
It's not. That's the problem.
Right. So we would need to insert it.
Well, I don't think, can we look at 5B first? Can you look at that right now? Because I think that can be fixed easily. That is simply a reference to the area. Let me see how to say this. We no longer need to call it an area of the B3 district. We can just change that to say, yeah, this might be easier if I just tell you what it should say. It should say, in addition, the city council may further increase the maximum permitted building height in the B3 district as specified in section 50-593 F4A building and so forth. So all we have to do is remove the, actually all we have to remove is and for that area.
Okay, you got it.
Because now this clause or provision applies to the entire B3 district. That's the way it's intended to be, right? I did have a little bit of question about the phrase "to the extent" in there. It's a little bit awkward. It's trying to say that it can go up to the 140 feet that's specified there. It makes the sentence a little bit awkward, but may further increase the maximum permitted building height to the extent
Yeah, we could just strike that too. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is.
Right. As long as it says, if we say the maximum permitted building height in the B3 district as specified in section 50-593, I think that covers the extent to which they can do it.
Right.
So that's what I would propose as an amendment, either when the motion is made or afterwards as an amendment, either way.
So we would be striking to the extent and for that area.
That's right.
Okay.
But then going back to 4A, it's much more difficult because what they were doing here, they had defined this area that was sort of, I guess, thought of as the core of the B3. You know, B3 is already sort of our core downtown, but then they defined another area within that where they wanted to allow extra height. And at the same time, they tied into that same area the issue of requiring first floor retail in residential buildings, with the idea that if there were a parcel in the B3 that was not in the core extra height district, they could allow such a parcel or building to not have retail on the first floor because there would be existing retail in close proximity. That's sort of the gist of what they were doing. And how to translate that now to having the entire B3 district be the extra height area, I can't quite wrap my mind around what you would do there.
Well, can we just take the language that was removed from that section and insert it into this?
We could. I guess that would be the simple way to simply maintain exactly what it was doing before.
Sure.
It isn't the question whether we want to allow council to exempt the core downtown from commercial space on the first floor. I mean, we could have this apply to the entire B3. But if we do that, that means that we may have developers who want to just build a purely residential building in the heart of downtown.
Okay,
But council wouldn't have to allow them to do that.
True.
I mean, the other alternative is that we have to put another geographic description, if I can use that term, into this particular paragraph that identifies where there has to be retail on the first floor and council can't permit a building otherwise.
Commissioner Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, what you're suggesting we could do would be pretty much the opposite of what this was trying to do. This was trying to say in the majority of the B3, council cannot exempt them from that. It would only be in sort of the fringes is what it amounted to.
Right. I mean, I guess that's the question. The question is, do we want to continue that requirement? And if we do want to continue that requirement, then we're going to have to put in a meets and bounds to define the area where we want to require a commercial use.
Yeah, I point out that, that there's a very odd sort of a conflict in this. if you think about it, that the areas where this allows them to exempt the retail requirement are on the edges of the B3. The edges of the B3 in many places are up against, well, maybe it's only a few, I guess, are up against B2 locations, I believe. And in B2, they are not allowed to exempt them from first floor retail. This provision exists only in this one place, and it only exempts this very small fringe area of the B3. So it seems a little odd to me that you could certainly have areas of the B2 that would be very close to these B3s, and they could not exempt them from it. And also, I don't know if this has ever been applied either.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure if we used this in the past to, prohibit that kind of land use. I don't know. But I have the language from the ordinance that took it out, so I have that ready if you want to look at it.
Yeah. Actually, a good example is 300 West Grand. That's B2, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So council would not be allowed to exempt them from the first floor retail, but if you just moved a little bit closer into the edge of the B3, they would be able to exempt someone there from it. So it creates a weird situation. But I agree, the simple thing would be to copy the old language. And
well, here, let me. So here's the language from that ordinance that took it out.
That looks correct.
Well, I'm kind of wondering if this exception is necessary because they could already, there is already the exception for a building that provides unique housing opportunities in the area, right?
Yes.
Although I'm not quite sure what those unique housing opportunities would be now that we have the requirements of dedicating a percentage of new housing to owner occupied or age qualified or income qualified. So, but I'm not sure whether unique housing opportunities there would be. An ashram? I don't know.
I'm not quite sure how big this extra area is anyway, that's outside of this, but still in the B3. It would include part of the north side of Albert Avenue, I know. I don't think B3 goes beyond People's Church to the west at all. Does it go beyond Bailey? Does it go all the way to Collingwood, I guess, on Grand River? So you'd have one block there. It's really hard to understand what they were thinking with this. I don't know who wrote it or what they were envisioning.
Oops.
So this is the crudely outlined zone as far as we could tell at the time.
Yep.
Okay, so it's pretty much a couple properties on the north side of Albert, the ones on Ann Street, or no, yes, the ones on Ann Street, but then Harper's and others in that area would still be in the area that could not get an exemption.
Right.
But the evergreen properties, well, they're not B3, right?
Not anymore. They were conditional at the time I think this was written.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, the note down here says the evergreen properties are
Oh,
32.
right.
I'll just staff, is it your sense that this is something that you want, would you like to get it cleaned up this pass, or do you want to wait till your next cleanup?
Well, I mean, the iron is hot here, right?
All right,
So,
that's fine.
It seems like it would at least just restore it to what the intent was at the time
That's true.
without leaving it hanging and
That's-
up for interpretation.
Yep.
So it would at least minimally do that. I think it's a good idea to plug this gap and at least get it to a point where we can interpret it and it was what it was.
Thank you.
Dan? I don't know.
Yes. Sorry. I've got the grid.
Right.
Whenever the screen gets shared, my grid view gets shifted. All right. So
Yeah,
Commissioner Wolf, there we go. Commissioner Wolf.
I'm satisfied with that. As you can tell, I don't feel as though I understand what it was trying to do exactly, and trying to change it now without knowing what it was trying to do, I'm not real comfortable with. So if we just restore that description right into wherever we are, where are we, 4A, 4B?
4A.
Yeah.
Yeah, B4A. All right. Any other discussion on this segment? I'm going to turn my ringer off, and if we're done discussing, then a motion would be in order. I'm going to knock everything on the floor too. Why don't we start with the base and then add to that? I presume that's those of you that are reading your screens are thinking about how to do that. So I'll wait for your sign.
So are we starting with the language as presented in the agenda packet, and then we're going to amend that?
I think that's
your preference.
I guess it's the preference of the motion maker, but I think maybe if we start with something concrete, and then that sounds like we've got a couple of different adds or deducts from that, but at least let's start with that.
All right, then Boyle will move.
Vice Chair, just a second. Mr. Haywood, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just going to say, if you wanted to, in the original motion, just specify that it's the Planning Commission's version of Ordinance 1492, if you want to start with that one.
That's fine.
So in the matter of Ordinance 1492, motion to recommend approval to the City Council, the Planning Commission's version of Ordinance 1492. And then you would amend it from there, because that's the one we brought back today that has incorporated everything that was discussed at the last meeting.
Okay, all right. So that's the one that's included with the agenda packet.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And again, Boyle, in the matter of Ordinance 1492, I move that we recommend approval to the City Council for the proposed updates and corrections to the zoning ordinance as set forth in the Planning Commission's version of the ordinance.
Thank you. Motion by Vice Chair Boyle. Is there a second?
Cahill, support.
Thank you, Commissioner Cahill. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Commissioner Wolf.
Yeah, as I mentioned at the last meeting, I'm still not convinced of the use of the interior community space as an incentive for new development. That's the one that's being added in here. I feel really strongly that what we need is improvements to the street space. We don't need anything going on inside the building in the way of community space. So I'm going to move that we delete that phrase, interior community space, from 50-593 G. It's a footnote with an asterisk there.
Thank you. I'm maybe on a different document now, but I'm looking at page 27 of 88. For those of you that.
That's where I see it.
Okay.
At the top of the page.
Correct. Is there a second?
Cahill, support.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Wolf and seconded by Commissioner Cahill to strike interior community space from the from that which would permit bonus allotments to the maximum building and ground coverage under the cited portion of the code. Any discussion on that motion? Commissioner Wolf.
Yeah, I'll just add that it was mentioned that it does say that these bonuses may be granted. They're not guaranteed, obviously, which is a good thing. But I still feel that having this option listed in there states it as something that we value, and it gives developers the idea that that is something that can be approved. And I don't feel as though any future council should be approving that type of an incentive. So in spite of the language may, I would rather not have it listed there even as an option.
Other discussion, Vice Chair Boyle.
Well, again, it's discretionary with council, and I think we got to trust council when they're making discretionary decisions to look at the entire project. And, you know, this is something that might be of benefit. It might enable a development to go forward that otherwise would not be able to go forward, and thereby benefit the community. And I understand your preference for the improvement of outdoor space in the downtown. But frankly, I don't think it's necessary to prohibit a consideration of community space that's undercover. I mean, could be a farmer's market, an indoor farmer's market. I can think of other circumstances when that would benefit the community of East Lansing. So I prefer to give council that flexibility.
Other discussion? All right, then I see oh, any further discussion? I thought I heard a, no, all right. Mr. Haywood, let's have a roll call vote on this. It's been moved by Commissioner Wolf and seconded by Commissioner Cahill to strike indoor meeting spaces from the list of potential bonus spaces. A vote in favor would remove interior community space from the list.
Boyle,
No.
Cahill,
Yes.
Lapine,
No.
Sullivan,
No.
Wagner,
No.
Williams,
No.
Wolf,
Yes.
Bowman.
No. That motion does not pass. Further discussion, that brings us back to the main motion. Additional discussion, I need a further discussion on the main motion. Or additions. Commissioner Wolf, please.
I'm not clear on whether we have already incorporated the other language we talked about. Was that-
I don't believe so. So we're the base that's been that's currently been moved and seconded is that which was in our packet this afternoon or this afternoon, this morning, last week. So your version of 50-593F would need to be read in if we're going to propose that to council.
Okay, I'll move that we amend 50-593F to read, or replace the first sentence, so I don't have to read the second sentence.
That's fine.
The minimum building height shall be 4 stories. Buildings can be up to 8 stories or 112 feet in height. The city council may, upon an affirmative vote of 3/4 of all members of the city council, permit an increase in stories or a maximum building height of up to 140 feet for a building deemed by the city council to be of significant public benefit, subject to an approved special use permit as provided in Article 2, Division 3 of this chapter.
Thank you.
And then the second sentence would
Also.
remain.
Yep. There's a motion from Commissioner Wolf.
Cahill support.
Thank you. It's been seconded by Commissioner Cahill to introduce the language just read by Commissioner Wolf. Any discussion on that motion? I'll just add that this streamlines some of the text that's currently part of the ordinance. I think it's a good idea. Any other discussion? Mr. Haywood, may we have another roll call vote, please?
Okay. Cahill,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Boyle.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Terrific. That again brings us back to the main motion with one. Go ahead. Commissioner Wolf, sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I move to amend section 50-94. Sorry,
You're fine.
I can't find the whole sequence of numbers here, but it ends in 5B. 5 is additional building height, and 5B to strike the words to the extent and for that area. That's the one that we discussed earlier.
Just a second. I want to get
This
you.
section is,
It is 50-94B 5B.
Right, that's right.
And the intention is to strike, let me, B5.
Strike to the extent and for that area. So it will now say, in addition, the city council may further
Thank you.
increase the maximum permitted building height in the B3 district as specified, and continue from there.
That's a motion by Commissioner Wolf.
Wagner support.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Wolf and seconded by Commissioner Wagner to make the language changes as described by Commissioner Wolf regarding section 50-94B 5B. In effect, clarifying an area that has been stricken from the code language at this point. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, Mr. Haywood, could we have a roll call vote again, please?
Lapine,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes,
Bowman,
Yes.
Boyle,
Yes,
Cahill.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
That again brings us back to the main motion with two amendments. And Commissioner Wolf.
I don't quite have the full language for this other one in front of me, but it would be to move to amend section 50-94B4A. The last sentence that starts with the provision of first floor retail may be waived by majority vote of the city council. In the area of the B3 district outside of, let me see how to do this. Outside of the area bounded by Grand River Avenue, Bailey Street, Albert Avenue, Grove Street, Linden Street, Abbott Road, City Parking Lot 15, North-South Alley west of Abbott Road, and 200 West Grand River Avenue, the People's Church. Where warranted by the existing retail opportunities in close proximity to the project. I think that does what we talked about.
Agreed. It's a motion by Commissioner Wolf.
Cahill support.
Thank you. The motion's been made by Commissioner Wolf and seconded by Commissioner Cahill to waive provisions of to define an area in which provisions outlined in 50-94B4A are waived regarding first floor retail in those areas. Any discussion on that motion?
I have a question.
Please.
Boyle, which is parking lot 15?
That is the parking lot on Abbott Road, I guess almost across from City Hall.
The one opposite the City Hall parking lot.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Further discussion or other questions? Let's see any hands. Mr. Haywood, may we have another roll call vote, please?
Sullivan,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Boyle,
Yes.
and Cahill,
Yes.
and Lapine.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, that's brings us back to the main motion with 3 amendments. Any further discussion? I think that's pretty thorough. Very well, then we'll proceed with vote on the main motion regarding ordinance changes to be proposed for recommendation to City Council, the main motion and its 3 amendments. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Haywood, let's have one more roll call vote, please.
Wagner,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Boyle,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yes.
and Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate everybody's patience with working our way through that. That'll move us on to item 8.1, an item of new business. This is a request from Mark Fineout for consideration of a 1-year site plan and special use permit extension for the property at 115 Albert Street. Mr. Haywood.
So this is a similar request to what we've seen before, where site plans and special use permits are being postponed due to the uncertainty and issues caused by the pandemic. So likewise, this applicant's looking for some extra time, and looks like not a whole lot of time. Their approval expires December 17th. Of this year. They didn't indicate an exact duration that they want extended, except that they are saying that they would have their application in before January 30th. So I guess we would, either extend it to January 30th or give them extra time. I guess it's up to the discretion of the Planning Commission at this point. With that, I take any questions.
Questions? Commissioner Wolf.
What is the actual requirement that they have to have started construction within the time period, or?
Yeah, I don't know that they actually have to start construction, but they have to have pulled a permit or mobilized materials or some other things that would show that they're making progress. It usually involves either permitting or actual construction, earth moving, that kind of thing.
And we're allowed to extend it by a year, is that correct?
12 months, correct.
Right. Is there any reason not to just do that? I mean, I'm actually encouraged. I'm surprised at the fact that they want to go ahead with this, and pleased that we're going to have new development. So why not give them the full year?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's why I suggested, maybe giving them a little bit of buffer, but a year it's up to the commission how comfortable they are with that.
Things are so uncertain now that, limiting it to just a couple of months just seems foolish.
There's motion language on page 104. Oh, that was yesterday's agenda. Hold on. Nope. Sorry, it's in that general, and maybe it's about 3 pages off of that because that's what was added. Excuse me. Thank you, Commissioner Wolf.
Yeah, actually, I see it says 1 year in the suggested motion already. So I move that in the matter of the request from Mark Fineout for a 1-year extension of the approved site plan and special use permit to establish a restaurant, including alcohol sales, at 115 Albert Avenue until December 19th, 2021. I move that we approve that request.
Is there a second?
Second, Boyle.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Wolf and seconded by Vice Chair Boyle. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I think we can do this with a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed? The motion carries. That'll bring us on to item 8.2, a review of our 2021 schedule. Mr. Haywood.
Yeah, just give me a second. All right, so here I'm sharing the dates for the suggested dates for the Planning Commission for the calendar year 2021. We compared these dates with the holiday calendar that we have. You'll notice that there's a standard footnote with an asterisk, but there are no dates that we could see that conflicted with either a holiday or elections or anything that the city clerk might have going there. We are finding kind of an interesting conflict now, though, with Zoom, where we used to have boards and commissions on the same night in physical locations that were separate. Now we're seeing that we only have one Zoom account, and we may end up having conflicts with that, but we'll have to deal with that as they come up. But for now, and considering that we don't have anything business for December, it might, we may end up canceling that meeting, and we didn't want to go into January without approved dates. So that's why we're seeing it today. So with that, I would take any questions.
Questions for Mr. Haywood? Not seeing any hands. We'll need a motion to accept these. Commissioner Sullivan? Or were you adjusting your screen?
I was just unmuting myself.
Oh, very well. Thank you. Commissioner Wolf?
So we're doing this as a normal motion to approve it,
That's correct.
right? All right, I'll move that we approve the suggested meeting dates for 2021.
Sullivan, second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Wolf and seconded by Commissioner Sullivan to approve the submitted meeting dates for 2021. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing no hands, and so Mr. Blitz, I think we can do this on a voice vote as well. All those in favor of that motion? Oop. Oh, I thought, Vice Chair Boyle, I thought you were raising your hand.
Nope.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? That motion carries. Bringing us on to item 9, Commissioner concerns. I'm not seeing any hands. I'll give you just one more second. Any concerns from any commissioners? Commissioner Wolf, there we go.
So this might be our last meeting for the year. I have a question. Do we have any commissioners who are on their final term here, expiring this year?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I could probably find it.
Okay, I guess if no one's volunteering that.
Oh, anybody's actually quitting?
No, I mean,
I do.
I did just find it here. Dan, yours expires, but you must be eligible for another term.
Yeah, I was brought in on a partial term, I think, and so I believe that's probably the case. I don't know who's likely to take that up with me.
Yeah.
It was Ms. Schmidt or Mr. Haywood, but I believe that's the case, that I've served 2 full terms, or excuse me, a full term and a partial term.
And then the other two are Jeff and Laura, who obviously just started, so they're certainly not on their last appointment. So we all continue next year then.
Sounds like it. Any other concerns? Good point, though, Commissioner Wolf. All right, then. If not, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Cahill, motions to adjourn.
Pardon me? Oh, Jack. Thank you.
Cahill, motions to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second,
It's been moved by Commissioner Cahill and seconded by Commissioner Wolf to adjourn the meeting. Having finished all our business, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. We will see you actually as a hopefully in a work session on the 30th. And our next scheduled meeting is currently December 9th. But note that the work session is supposed to start at 6 on the 30th. Hopefully we'll see you all then.
Okay.
Be safe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Okay.